Social Justice Goblin, welcome to the backyard. So, as you know, my favorite wrestling federation is definitely NWA, and my favorite program is NWA Storm. I mean, when I find it on YouTube on Tuesdays, it's like, I watch it the next day, honestly, because it's my, like, Wednesday relaxing, in between when I need to take a break from work. So, anyways, I love, my favorite tag team is obviously Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Come on. I can't get enough of the fig baths. Oh, the fig baths from Zack. Oh, Zack. Anyways, actually my LGN figures need a fig bath, Zack, and I don't know how to do a fig bath. Anyways, but my favorite team in NWA has to be the Bruiser Brodies, as I'm going to call them. The Dawsons. Because you see, kind of let the punchline go there. Because you see, on their legs is a very distinct wrap. It's a fur liner thing with this little circle loop down, one on the right and one on the left. And when they come together, they form an iconic wrestler. And I'm gonna get into detail. So for me, growing up in Europe, the only wrestling I had access to was WWF Superstars on Sky, or whatever I got to see in the summer when I went to America. And Glow. Ironically, Glow. Anyways, so for me, how I got my wrestling information was through the magazines, where I discovered there's more than the WWF out there. And I discovered when a wrestler leaves, they go to another federation, and that most wrestlers are gonna end up in the WWF. I mean, I was an Owen Hart mark before Owen Hart Mark was in the WWF. I didn't even know he was the Blue Blazer. It was so tragic. It really hurts me that I can't see him. And I knew him was because they wrote articles about Stampede. And the Dawsons bring tradition to that because they bring memories of one man, Bruiser Brody. Now, for Bruiser Brody, you heard stories about him, that he was a wild madman, and I remember I got a wrestling book, and like a chapter on Bruiser Brody was with his distinct pictures, because you saw his pictures and stuff, that promoters couldn't control him, and you're like, oh my god, he's not gonna, because there was undertones that Vince kinda, you knew when a wrestler jumped because their names would change and stuff. Like, I knew who the Bushwhackers were, because I was like, oh, those are the Shepherders. And I was expecting Shepherd matches, but I'm like, how's that gonna work in the WWF? There's no blood. Because I remember a photo spread where they just beat the living tar out of someone. I remember Paul E. sitting there with a phone, just cramming it in someone's head. Oh, I read so many Cornette stories, it wasn't even funny. But there was one who I wanted to see, who I never thought I would see, but I was like, I'll eventually get back to America and see him. He'll be alive. Tragically, he passed away. He was stabbed to death in Puerto Rico. I'm not going to get into the details because there's plenty of stories about it. But I love that the Dawsons pay tribute to Bruiser Brody. Here's the thing, though. I didn't want to ruin the memories I had of Bruiser Brody by watching one of his matches. I have this image of Bruiser Brody in my mind because, you see, the thing was, when I moved back to America, I discovered wrestling again. And I discovered online wrestling when it was back in its infancy. I introduced Mark Marrow to Webb, because he used to sneak in a little thing acknowledging what was called a news group. And boy, did they talk up the stories of Bruiser Brody. Evidently, he was a ruckus behind the scenes. Evidently, they thought he was a maniac in the ring. Even the boys thought he was a maniac. I'm like, oh my God, I hate that guy in Puerto Rico more than anything, and I like the fact that people remember Bruiser Brody like that, but I've never seen him. So I'm finally like, I have this image of an insane maniac. So I finally broke down and said I'll buy a video of his. So Jim Cornette recently offered this DVD, Houston's Wrestling Spectacular. And as you can see right there on the cover, that is Bruiser Brody. Remember, this is being sold at Jim Cornette's. It's cheap, it's going fast. At this creepy Mugs website. But it has right on the front, Bruiser Brody and Bruiser Brody. Then it has this cool, awesome shot of Dusty bleeding. I'm like, damn. And then you look on the back, it's got Ken Patera. You got Nick Bockwell versus Dick Slater, Jimmy Snuka versus Briscoe versus the Sport. That's supposed to be a classic. One of these is supposed to be surviving footage. Bruiser Brody verse. They only have surviving footage. Wow. And the last one is Bruiser Brody versus Tony oh my God, this is just loaded with, oh my God. The Johnny Valiant versus Bill Curry. This is supposed to be one of the greatest matches ever done. Jimmy Valiant has a wrestling school in Virginia, and one of his guys made it into the WWE. Next, actually. Anyways, this is Social Justice Goblin saying, I'm going to go off and enjoy me some wrestling the rest of the day after I finish this cigar. Because, Jim, this is awesome, and it's set in Texas, which makes it even better, because there's no Von Erichs in here, because god dang, the Von Erichs tragic, and I'll make a video about the Von Erichs one of these days. It's a Texas thing.